The Democratic Party is going to be purged and destroyed. At least that's my preliminary prediction. We can see how Nancy Pelosi tries to cozy up to the far left squad, desperate to hold things together and try and push back on Republicans. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. And you know why it doesn't work? Ocasio-Cortez and the other far left Democrats have no intention of acting in good faith and working with the Democratic Party. And we've got more than enough evidence to show it. This first story, Ocasio-Cortez endorses progressive primary challenger to House Democratic lawmaker. You would think a Democrat would endorse a Democrat in a flippable district, find a Republican seat, endorse the Democrat, and hope the Democrat can win and you can expand the tribe that is the Democratic Party. That's not what they're doing. Their intention is to destroy the Democratic Party, and don't take my word for it. This is coming from Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. We're going to shred the Democratic establishment. And we'll get into the story. But it's not just this. Even Kyrsten Sinema is being slammed and threatened with censure because she only voted with the Democrats 81% of the time. I kid you not. We'll read this story too. The intention of the far left is to purge or destroy the Democratic Party. They're not going to take it over. They're not going to gain power. They're going to destroy it. And this is one of the things I've been so angry about. There is no principled left anymore. There are the desperate moderates who just want to stay in power, the corporatists, and the far left that seeks to eliminate them. When it comes to actual policy, what do we have? We have Donald Trump laying down his plans, changing rules, appropriating funds. We have a media that's obsessed with his tweets, and we have a Democratic Party embroiled in a civil war. What will come of this? In my opinion, Donald Trump's reelection and the collapse of the Democratic Party. Now, maybe by 2024 or 2028, we'll see a new Democratic Party emerge, a new coalition form. But as the data has shown us, and I've highlighted this over and over again, the Democrats are splitting between the far left and the center. And the far left is younger and more vibrant and seeking to destroy the establishment, as I've just shown you. So here's what I want to do. I want to go through these stories, talk about what's going on with AOC, Kyrsten Sinema, but I can show you that it's not going to work for them. The far left is not going to win this because Americans don't like them. We have another story. AOC is vulnerable to a primary challenge, survey finds. So even if they cause enough damage to shred the Democratic establishment, in the end, they will not succeed either. This may be, in my opinion, the complete fracturing and, at least for a long time, the end of the Democratic Party, or at least, I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say they'll be wiped out completely. I think it's too strong of an establishment. But I think they're going to be crippled for a long time and struggle to have any kind of coalition or vote. Let's get started with this story from CNN. But before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. There are multiple ways you can donate: PayPal, crypto, physical address. But the best thing you can do is share this video. You may notice I'm highlighting a CNN story on purpose, but I want to stress, YouTube will prop up the big channels and derank independent political commentary. If you think what I'm saying is important, then please consider sharing this video wherever you can, because there's one thing YouTube can't derank, and that's your ability to share a link. So if you like the content, please share. But let's read. From CNN, Ocasio-Cortez of New York on Tuesday threw her support behind a progressive primary challenger to Rep. Dan Lipinski of Illinois, a lawmaker who is considered to be one of the most conservative House Democrats. Ocasio-Cortez called Mary Newman, who is challenging the congressman in 2020 after unsuccessfully challenging him in the 2018 midterm primary, quote, a grassroots fighter for working families, in a statement on Twitter. It's going to take a bigger, stronger Democratic Party, one that's returned to our FDR roots and fights for working people, to change our future in 2020, she tweeted, adding, we can't afford deep blue seats fighting against healthcare and equal rights. We need Mary for Congress. But here's the thing. I think the problem with the Democrats is we have wrong centrists. Joe Biden is not the centrist we want. He's a remnant of the old guard, and neither was Hillary Clinton. These far leftists try to claim that moderate policies don't work because, well, look at Hillary Clinton. She lost. But Hillary Clinton was a Goldman Sachs corporatist internationalist. There's so much wrong with what Hillary Clinton represented. Bernie Sanders at the time was being a bit more moderate. He's now endorsed the far left establishment. There's like two establishments, the cultural and the political on the left. And Bernie's gone full swing into the identitarian nonsense, calling for a moratorium on deportations. He's lost it. That's not a moderate position. That is an extreme position. And I'll get into all of that. Oh, I've got some wonderful data to show you how nuts the Democrats have gotten. But the point is, these are not the candidates that we as moderates and left-leaning individuals are looking for. Not AOC and not Joe Biden. Which means, someone like me who's very much in favor of Tulsi Gabbard, who has been more moderate on key social and cultural issues, they're keeping her out. And so it's very likely that, actually, let me say it this way. You have progressives, you have moderates, you have establishment, and we're not unified. Okay? I'm looking for a Democrat, someone like Tulsi. They don't like her. Ocasio-Cortez is looking for a Bernie or a Warren, perhaps. And then you have the establishment looking for a Biden. There's no unity here. It's falling apart. And AOC's attacks on the Democratic Party are just evidence that it's only going to get worse. They say an endorsement from Ocasio-Cortez, who has quickly established herself as a progressive icon, currently in her first term in Congress, and has a massive following on social media, could give a boost to any candidate. The New York Democrat also recently endorsed Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts in his 2020 re-election bid. Lipinski is viewed by many liberal Democrats as out of step with his party. He voted against the Affordable Care Act, is one of the only congressional Democrats to identify as anti-abortion rights, and did not endorse then-President Barack Obama's re-election bid in 2012, not 2020. They go on to say that Newman, in contrast, is running on a progressive platform, including supporting the Green New Deal and Medicare for All. She is backed by Justice Democrats, the progressive organization that supported Ocasio-Cortez when she ran a successful primary challenge to veteran House Democratic lawmaker Joe Crowley. Now, here's the important point. I'm not going to get into too much of this. You get it. AOC is endorsing someone to challenge a Democrat. Why might this be? Take a look at this story from 2016. Cenk Uygur, we're going to shred the Democratic establishment. He says, quote, "We just elected a madman, an incompetent monster as president of the United States." He said, "I did see this coming, but it gives me no joy. The reason I kept telling the Democratic Party that there was an iceberg ahead is not that I wanted to hit it, is I wanted to avoid it." But here's what he says. Who's responsible? The losers at the DNC and Hillary Clinton and her entire staff. That's who's responsible. We were right and they were wrong. We said pick Bernie Sanders, who had a lead over Trump, but in their incompetence and corruption, they said no. More importantly, the end. Uygur said the Democratic establishment, in a way, like the Republican establishment, needs to go down. We are going to shred the Democratic establishment. We are going to attack it at its core. Because if they do one more election like this, where they support corporatist politicians, they will destroy this country, and we're not going to let them do it. We're going to take over the Democratic Party, Uygur said. They've endangered the entire world with their incompetence. So I believe Cenk is sincere. I believe his intention is to take over the Democratic Party. Now, he was outed from Justice Democrats. I believe that was the organization because of, he got canceled. Someone found old posts or something he made that were offensive, and they booted him from the organization, which I think is patently absurd. But Cenk doesn't understand one thing. The result of, civil conflict in any capacity is massive collateral damage to both sides. You can stop the establishment, but at the cost of Democratic victory. This is why Democrats for so long have embraced the establishment, and they don't want to lose. So I think it's fair to be upset and say something needs to be changed. But perhaps now that you have progressive Democrats, you should use the power they wield with their influence to go after Republicans and not Democrats. But they're not done. You see, the real vendetta these people have is not against Republicans. And to an extent, I can understand that. To me, the Republicans are engaging in business as usual in many ways. Mitch McConnell held up the Obama's potential appointee to the Supreme Court. I believe it was Merrick Garland. And I think that was wrong. I believe it was absolutely wrong. He's also held up legislation. I get it, though. This is how politics operates. You can look back at quotes from Democrats and Republicans and see they play the game. Donald Trump is very different, but he's playing it smart. A lot of people want to act like he's dumb. You can criticize him for bad behavior and for bad policy, but when it comes to political strategy, it's working for him. Regardless of that, though, the Democrats are fighting each other. And here I am on one side of that fight. Now, they'll call me conservative. They'll say, Tim, why are you coming after Democrats on the left so often? And I'm going to break down exactly why by highlighting Obama positions to prove, to state on the record once and for all what everybody who's a moderate, regular American already knows, as long as they're paying attention. The positions adopted by Democrats today are so out of sync with Obama, they act like he's a Republican. But take a look at this story before we move into that. Also from yesterday. Arizona progressives seek to censure Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Why? Because she only agrees with Democrats 81% of the time. I kid you not. They say, Sinema built a moderate political brand during her 3 terms in the House of Representatives, which has extended to her early days in the Senate. According to 538 Trump Tracker, she has opposed Trump while in the Senate 81% of the time. In the House, she supported Trump's agenda 54% of the time. She's actually moved more progressive since joining the Senate. They say, while Sinema's political centrism has earned her Republican support, it has grated on progressives, some of whom silently protested her during a state fundraising dinner in downtown Phoenix. Democratic state committeemen will consider the resolution on Saturday at the Arizona Democratic Party's quarterly meeting. So let me make this point. Sinema, I believe she flipped a seat. She's a Democrat, okay? She has done something great for the Democrats. Voting against Trump 81% of the time is better than if a Republican got in Arizona. So what do? It's not enough. Bend the knee to the far left or else. So they're going to vote to censure her. I don't know what that'll actually do, but you can see they're coming for her, someone who actually won them a Democratic Senate seat. It's, to me, completely absurd. Here's the thing. As I stated, it's not going to play well for them. They're not going to come out on top. They're not taking over the party. They're destroying it. When they're engaging in conflict against the people who have a chance to win, because they don't realize, although there are many people polled who might say, yeah, that's a good idea, they don't vote, or they don't vote for you. The regular person, that's who you need to win to get elections. The left-leaning moderates and even the right-leaning moderates who are willing to move over to the Democrat if you're offering them a real position. Instead, the far left is targeting Democrats. And here's what we see from the New York Post. AOC is vulnerable to a primary challenge, survey finds. Now, admittedly, this survey comes from Stop the AOC PAC. Let's absolutely call them out for political bias. It doesn't necessarily mean their data is wrong. The framing may be, but let's read. They say, the survey commissioned by the decidedly anti-AOC Stop the AOC Political Action Committee found that 47% of Democrats in the 14th Congressional District view her favorably and 29% unfavorably, with 24% unsure. Asked if they supported Ocasio-Cortez's efforts to ruin the Amazon deal that would have created jobs, 37% said yes, 35% said no, with 28% unsure. That's a very loaded question. Take all this bias into consideration. I'm going to call it out, but let me just read more data. Anger directed at Ocasio-Cortez over Amazon's decision to back out of a deal for a headquarters and campus in Long Island City has created an opening for a challenger to run against her as anti-jobs and anti-business, said Dan Backer, founder of Stop the AOC. They go on to say this, however. Respondents were, let me back up. Voters were asked if they believe AOC spends more time focusing on social media than helping New Yorkers in her district. The results found that 40% said AOC is helping her district more. 22% said she's focusing on social media more. 38% were unsure. Respondents were mixed on whether they would support a primary challenger to AOC. 26% said likely or somewhat likely. 43% said unlikely or somewhat unlikely. Now, I want to make sure I get this right, because my understanding is they're talking to Democrats specifically. What this finds is that 26% of those polled, which I believe they're Democrats, again, yes, Democratic homes in the district, 26% of Democrats are willing to support a challenger. Now, here's the important part about their bias. That's not a big number, okay? So they're saying she's vulnerable to a primary challenge. It's true, there is a decent amount, but it's 43% that support her, that would not, are unlikely to support a challenger. So she does have the bigger faction of Democrats on her side. That's why I want to highlight this. Although the PAC is biased, they're still saying more people support her than oppose her. The point is, going to war with Democrats will result, 26% is not negligible. That is a decent amount of people who want to see a change. And you may see Republicans flipping and supporting a Democratic primary challenger just to get AOC out. Now think about this. There are Republicans who live in this district. I believe her district is like D plus 30. But that still means you have 20 or more percent of the people who live there as Republicans who might actually come out now and say they'd be more willing to vote Democrat if it gets rid of AOC. That's just my speculation. Take it for what it is. All I really want to highlight is that AOC is contentious, although she does have a lot of support in her district. I don't want to make it seem like she's on the verge of being ousted or anything like that, just that she is not a guaranteed favorite, and as she continues to declare war on Democrats, she will generate enemies in the Democratic Party. That's obvious. But let's move on. Let's talk about why it's all just a big bad idea. Phase 2, Act 2. From the New York Times, Nate Cohn, the upshot on September 10th. Moderate Democrats fared best in 2018. A North Carolina election is also a chance to think about what kind of candidate might do best against President Trump. Now, I don't need to read too much in this. The headline is enough for you to get the gist of it. I frequently highlight a study, a poll, from The Economist showing the Democrats have been spreading out further and further left with no cohesive, with no unity. That's an Economist poll. The story in question talks about how progressive Democrats overwhelmingly failed. I believe the number is something like 79 progressives ran and something like 8 won. Then we see it again from the New York Times. The moderates are the ones who did best. Do you think you can win against Donald Trump with the party as fractured as it is? Unfortunately, you can't. Okay, Bernie Sanders is crazy Bernie. Joe Biden is old Joe Gaff, the Gaff King. You've got 30% or so of people, 28, who like Biden. The progressives won't vote for Biden. And the moderates are probably not going to vote for Bernie. Now, it's possible. Here's the thing. If a progressive gets the nomination, moderates might bite their tongue and vote for the far left. I'm going to have to go ahead and bet that's not the case, though. Some people believe that to be the case, and I'm going to show you why. First, here's a story from the Wall Street Journal. Bernie Sanders touts immigration plans, but his record is complicated. Vermont senator wants to pause deportations, but he has also argued that too much immigration could hurt American workers. What could this mean? Perhaps Bernie Sanders has changed his opinion. See, only a few months ago, he said there are too many poor people in this world, we can't let them all in. Maybe Bernie Sanders had a revelation, an understanding. You know what? We can't be deporting these people. Or maybe it's completely separate issues. Maybe he's saying, stop where we're at now. No more people can come in, but we're not going to deport people. A moratorium on deportation is extreme. It's well beyond what any regular person would probably want to support. And I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with American workers. It has to do with criminals. Deportations often involve people who've committed crimes. If Bernie Sanders saying don't deport anyone, pause all deportations, he's taking one of the most extreme stances on immigration we have ever seen. And what about Obama? Check out this story. Now let's talk, I want to get to the Obama stuff. I want to talk about why they will likely lose and how, and here's evidence they've lost it. August 13th, 2010, Obama signed $600 million bill to boost U.S. border security. Is it the same as Trump? No, not really. But 1,000 new Border Patrol agents. They called Barack Obama the deporter-in-chief. My understanding is that Obama deported substantially more people than Trump. I did have a story from the Wall Street Journal. Unfortunately, it kept crashing. And it said, if Trump is running on being tough on immigration, why is he deporting less people than Obama did? It's a good question. But they're calling Trump the extreme one. How about this? September 9th. Obama offers compromises to get health care bill passed. I kid you not. He was embracing ideas floated by Republicans. Respectable. Now, granted, this was 10 years ago. I was much, much less involved, but I did follow this a bit. Obama promised universal health care. He then compromised and we got Obamacare. Not perfect, a lot of problems. But here's what I want to say. Barack Obama ran on universal health care, and that I understand. The Democrats today, what did they say? How many people raised their hand when asked if they would provide taxpayer-funded healthcare for non-citizens? It was all of them. And it was so shocking to the DNC, I assume this is why they did it, they changed the rules and said no more asking people to raise their hands because they looked nuts. Castro says decriminalize border crossings. Bernie says, you know what, just stop all deportation altogether. Combine those two, what do you think you get? What did Obama run on? Strong borders. Universal health care for American citizens, but he did compromise. Let's talk about Second Amendment. What did Obama run on? Or actually, what did Obama support? I don't have this pulled up, so definitely fact check me on this one. But I did read through a few different articles about his positions, and Obama was pretty much on the left on the gun control issue. And he said local restrictions make sense, but we must protect 2A. Okay, Obama compromised. He was a rather moderate left-leaning individual in a lot of ways, and he was pretty far left on many issues, but he did compromise. Okay, and I wasn't even a big fan of the guy because of his foreign policy stuff. And where are we today? Beto O'Rourke dominating social media because he is calling for a complete confiscation of ARs. Now, here's the thing. He can call it mandatory buyback. We know what that means. It's confiscation with a smile. You're gonna hand somebody a check. It doesn't matter. You're mandating they give up something they have a legal right to possess. He has then called on duopolies, the credit card firms, to stop legal transactions. That is so extreme compared to where Obama was. So let's talk about what's frustrating. Obama compromised in a lot of ways that many Democrats didn't like, but he's still one of the most popular Democratic presidents ever, at least in this generation. Why are they attacking him? And why aren't they embracing his positions? The reality is, Donald Trump pulled Republicans slightly to the left. That's from New York Times data. Based on statements made by Republicans, that's what we can see. It's a fact. Now, Donald Trump has been a bit more extreme rhetorically in a lot of ways, but he's deported less people. He's supported gay marriage before entering office more than any other Republican. I'm not saying he's better than Democrats. I'm just saying better than Mitt Romney was and McCain. So yes, absolutely. To a tiny degree, Donald Trump has moved the Republicans slightly to the center. And that is coming from New York Times data, which I've showed so many times, I don't have it pulled up. That's why I often show the same thing again for, a lot of people who watch my videos. You'll see repeated data, but it's important because someone might not believe me. But go fact check me. The Democrats have moved so far left now. Obama is far right, and it's just that provable. Okay, Obama boosting border security. Bernie called for border security. Chuck Schumer did. They all did. Now what? Obama compromised with Republicans and embraced ideas floated by Republicans. Now what? Healthcare for non-citizens. So I'll tell you what's going on. AOC is not going to bring about a great resurgence in the Obama era. Nor will Cenk Uygur, nor will these progressives going after Kyrsten Sinema. Kyrsten Sinema seems to be closer on the Obama track. So let me just make this really clear for everybody. People say, Tim, you don't talk about the Republicans enough. You don't talk about Mitch McConnell enough. Oh, dude, I do not like Mitch McConnell. Come on. But what do you want me to do? Politician lied today. News at 11. No, I'm sorry. It happens all the time. But I'll tell you this. There's a relativity thing going on. What are the big stories that are happening? And more importantly, what do I care about? Okay? No, I don't care that Trump tweeted about people being wet. I don't care, or he didn't actually do that, but I don't care Trump said people were soaking. I don't care that Trump used a Sharpie. None of that matters to me. What matters to me is the complete destruction and the cannibalization of the Democratic Party by people who are angry at Hillary Clinton. They're willing to sacrifice everything. But maybe Cenk is right. Maybe there needs to be a long-term investment. I will say this. I believe in the long term, they will just cripple the Democrats for the next decade or so. But perhaps something will come out of it. Perhaps there will be a stronger populist, rational base that says cancel culture is bad, these extreme positions are bad, mass confiscation of people's legal, property is bad, giving healthcare to non-citizens is bad. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe there's now a shock to the system to get rid of the corporatists, the crony establishment Democrats, and bring in more moderate, sane, rational, middle-of-the-road types that will lean against the Republicans, present principled opposition to Republican policy, and actually speak to regular Americans. I'll tell you this. It is not Ocasio-Cortez. It is not Bernie. It is not Beto. It was Obama. That's why he won twice. And that's why Trump won. And Trump will probably win again. Yeah, people don't like his attitude. Trump is a mirror image to Obama when it comes to candor and character. Policy-wise, though, they're not too dissimilar. They're different. Don't get me wrong. But I'm basing this relative to where the Democrats are today. If you were to compare Trump and Obama, say in 2008, you'd be like, wow, Trump is more moderate than every other Democrat. That's what you would say. Today, the Democrats have veered so off the rails, they think Trump is far right, when all data points to the fact that he's actually moved slightly to the left. And you know what? It's probably because it's probably part of the strategy to attract left-leaning independents so that he could win. You need that coalition. Obama knew it, and Obama won a second term. And he compromised. He compromised on a lot. So I'll tell you what, when Bernie says moratorium on deportation, people are going to be like, dude, what? When Beto comes out and says, you know, we're going to take your, I can't say the words that he says. It's YouTube. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to, but I can't. And when Beto says things like that, then, yeah, don't be surprised that people are going to say, what? And they're not going to vote for it. The people I've talked to about the Democrats say they're not voting. They don't want to vote for Trump, but they're not voting because the Democrats have lost it. When you go after Kirsten Sinema because she's only voting with you 81% of the time, and that's not enough, you've lost it. But I can say it a million times, and I'll say it a million times more as the stories continue to pour in. And it's almost like everything I said was happening, you know, a year ago is continuing to happen. These are all new stories. These are all stories from yesterday and today. There it is. I said a month ago, I said 2 months ago, 3 months ago, every time I say they're getting more extreme, they're embracing ridiculous policies, they're destroying the party, they continue to do it. Take it for what it is. Stick around for the next segment at youtube.com/TimCastNews starting at 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all there.